Welcome to the Joy Lab podcast, where we help you uncover and foster your most joyful self. Your hosts, Dr. Henry Emmons and Dr. Aimee bring you the ideal mix of soulful and scientifically sound tools to spark your joy, even when it feels dark. When you're ready to experiment with more joy, combine this podcast with the full Joy Lab program over at joylab.coach.
Hello, I'm Henry Emmons, and welcome back to Joy Lab.
And I'm Aimee. Today we are talking about our element of hope. And I'm going to start us off with kind of a crazy story. Hang with me, folks. See if I can tie it to hope, which it is in my head, completely tied to hope. All right, so as many of you might know, my husband and I have 9 children. We have 1 human. We have 2 dogs, and we have 6 tiny raptors, as we like to call them. Those are our chickens.
Raptors.
I know. We love our little raptors. So it was summertime, and we were awakened to a rooster crowing. Now, female chickens do not crow, just males. So we thought, oh man, someone's going to get their bird taken away because our city doesn't allow backyard roosters for good reason. And there's like 3 other families around us that have raptors as well. So chickens. So the next morning, we heard it again. But this time, our window was open and it was loud, like coming from our backyard, loud. And we had just gotten 4 new chicks about 5 months prior and thought, oh no, one must be a rooster. And we didn't realize it, which can happen. They don't show all their sort of like rooster characteristics until some months old. Anyway, we knew we had to figure out who the rooster was. Was it Bluey, Fluffy, Puffy, Bruno, or Barrette? And you'd guess Bruno based on the name, but these are the names you get when your 4-year-old is in charge of naming the chickens. And there's a Disney movie that's hot at the time. Encanto, Bruno. Anyway, we planned it out. We were going to get up early and peer out of the windows to catch the rooster. We knew it wasn't Haley or Mina, our other 2 ladies, because they were 5 years old at the time, old gals in retirement. So there we were waiting as the chickens are out early in the morning. We're just waiting with bated breath to see who crows. And then we hear it, the crowing. And we look to each of the new chickens and they're just pecking around. And then we look to Haley, our 5-year-old female chicken, is standing on a log crowing. We were stunned. It's not a thing. Hens do not crow. So we went out there and we also noticed the bumps we saw growing on the back of her legs. We just thought were like old age bumps or something. Were not bumps. They were spurs. So spurs are these like bones or talon kind of things that grow on the back of a rooster's leg so that roosters can attack, protect the hens. And she had been growing these over the last 6 weeks or so, and they had grown bigger since. So our 5-year-old female chicken was becoming a male chicken or a phenotypical male chicken, developing these male characteristics. First, I'd like to say that Haley has stopped crowing and is still with us. We did not have to pass her off to a farm. She's as feisty and fantastic as you can imagine. But now, okay, so this may seem like a topic completely outside of mental health.
Well,
there's a lot of threads here, but the one I'm going to pull right now, when this happened, after I did some research to figure out what the heck was going on, the thing that really rang true for me was how capable, how wired we are to create big changes in our lives. And it was mainly after I read this passage from an article on avian sex reversal, which is what Haley experienced. Here's what it said. When there is a no rooster in a chicken flock, a hen may experience sex reversal to maintain the reproduction of the population. Think about that. In response to a community need, the flock in this case, a chicken can change its sex. So things that we think are fixed, concrete, certain, even biological sex in this case, can be changed to support the well-being of the individual and the community. That's my thread.
Wow.
So to me, right? To me, in times when we may feel helpless, overwhelmed, defeated, this is the science. This is the kind of message I want to hold front and center. Even if you feel like change is impossible, there is an immense space for change. We are wired for it, for transformation, for healing.
Wow.
Isn't that
I did
wild?
not see that coming.
Setting you up for a really weird episode.
That
Yeah.
is an unforgettable image about how adaptable nature is.
Amazing.
And we're part of nature, of course.
That's right.
And we are incredibly adaptable. I love it.
Yeah.
I love this topic of radical change.
Yeah.
And I like that it comes so soon after we talked about emotional inertia and homeostasis, because those concepts focus on really on how we tend to resist change, even if change might be for the better. Once a system is stable, it tends to stay as it is. But this story suggests that when there is a real need for things to change, it's not only possible, but it can be in a really big way.
Yeah.
So I like to put this conversation in the context of neuroplasticity. It helps me to remember that our brains are changing all the time. All the time. Whether we know it or not, our brains are in a constant state of transformation. That's not a question. The question is, to me at least, what direction is this transformation going? And what, if anything, can we do to influence it toward greater health and well-being and joy? So I also take heart in the science of epigenetics. You know, we tend to think of our genes as being immutable, unchanging, and that they have the last word when it comes to our bodies or even the illnesses that we are prone to. And of course, the research says that our genes do have a big influence. But remember, when it comes to mental health, at most, genetics accounts for about 50% of why some people get sick and others don't. So epigenetics is a way of understanding that our DNA is not the only game in town. There are other mechanisms that are layered on top of the DNA, and they have a lot to say about whether the information in our genes becomes manifest or not. And more so, even if an illness is activated, and let's say even something as strongly genetic as bipolar illness or certain forms of depression, strong genetic influences, even if that illness is present, those genes have been activated, it is possible to turn those genes off again.
Yes. We have so much power to create change. There's this recent study that analyzed data from a bunch of cohorts over multiple time periods. I think it emphasizes what you're saying here, Henry. There were over 350,000 participants over 13 years. And the researchers were looking at how genetic and lifestyle factors influenced lifespan. And broadly, they found that healthy lifestyle factors were more impactful to lifespan, nearly 4 times more impactful, actually, than genetic predisposition to a short lifespan. Amazing.
That is amazing.
Healthy diet, physical activity, adequate sleep, not smoking. Those were like 4 of the big factors, those powerful lifestyle factors that could help nearly turn off that genetic predisposition. So I think what we're saying here is that we are wired for change. hope for change. And the way this relates to hope is important. Here's kind of a dry but helpful definition of hope. Hope is a motivational factor that helps initiate and sustain action toward long-term goals, including flexible management of obstacles that get in the way of goal attainment. So there are the facts. We can change. Healthy changes will benefit us. And hope can help us make those changes. It is a motivational force. And I think it's even more than that. I want to highlight one more study that I really love to hopefully drive this point home. This is research from Drs. Ulrich Wager and Stephen Launen, I think. I'll put it in the show notes. So they had two groups of folks who were told they would be answering questions that were on a screen, one by one, question after question. One group was told that before each question would appear, the answer would be flashed on the screen super quick, like too quick to actually consciously recognize the answer, but slow enough so that they could unconsciously get it. The other group was told that the flashes on the screen just signaled the next question was coming. Now, here's the really important point. Both groups received the same exact flashes, which were just random strings of letters. They were not answers. Neither group got the answer. But the group that was told they got the answer, they did significantly better. They answered more questions right compared to the other group. So that group who was told they were getting the answers, you could say they got a boost of hope. They had some extra hope, an expectation that they could do this, that they could get those answers right. I don't see that as any different as expecting that we have the ability to do something, to create change. And when we have that belief, it gives us the intention and it adds fuel, motivation to help us create change. That's a belief anchored by hope.
Wow.
Isn't that cool?
I love it. It also reminds me how tricky researchers can be.
I love it. Love it when they do those tricking studies. They have Confederates in the room who are telling you different stuff. Yes.
But isn't that something? Expecting to know the answers helps you to actually know the answers.
Yep.
You know, expecting to move in a direction of greater well-being, maybe we are more likely to create greater well-being. So I think one lesson to take from this is that we can be intentional, purposeful about how we work with the forces of change. And I think we also want to be patient, because in order for that change to be lasting, it can take a while. So this kind of goes back to that conversation of homeostasis and how hard it is to change something even for the better, that it, organisms in our physiology resist that change. So we have to be persistent. That's kind of my point. So here, this is just a very approximate way to measure this that I just want to share something I've observed over the years. And that is that when someone goes on a new medication, for example, as a treatment for some condition, like just the standard antidepressants, I think that it takes roughly 6 months for the brain to have really adapted to that medication and its effects on physiology and to create a new normal, roughly 6 months. And, on the literature and the protocols for treating something like depression, they always say, stay on the medication for 6 months. And I think there's something to that length of time, that it takes that long to have adapted and to have that change be the new normal. Okay. Likewise, when it's time to come off a medication, even sometimes people have trouble doing that because it is a change. And I believe that it takes, again, roughly 6 to 9 months for the brain to have adapted to being off the medication and then kind of being left with another new normal that's medication free. So at least in my mind, I find that to be a good time frame to work with. And I think it's something that helps me to recognize that I am not the same person exactly as I was 6 months ago. And to ask myself, this question, who will I be 6 months from now? Now, of course, I look more or less the same and probably think and act more or less the same, but not entirely. So I can't say this for sure, but I believe that I can influence this process. And I think I do that through the choices that I am making right now, today, and tomorrow, and the next day, these 1,000 little choices through which I am creating the brain that I am going to have and the life I am going to have 6 months and further down the road. The future me is being created right now.
Yes. We kind of hit on this a couple episodes ago. Brick by brick, we're building our lives day by day. That is our life. If Haley would have looked in the mirror 6 months before getting her Spurs, would she have thought, I'm going to be a rooster in 6 months? No. She would have never predicted that. Took some time. They look great now on her. I'll put a picture in the show notes to show off my fantastical chicken. Give ourselves that time to change too. Like you're saying, yeah, we can create little and radical changes in our lives day by day, minute by minute, hour by hour. And of course, actually making those changes, believing we can make those changes can be hard. So we'll tackle some of those obstacles in the next several episodes for our element of hope this month. We'll raise some of those obstacles up. We'll talk about how we can overcome them. To close our time today, I have to share some lines from Emily Dickinson's poem called Hope is the Thing with Feathers. Here are the first few lines. Hope is the thing with feathers that perches in the soul and sings the tune without the words and never stops at all.
Thank you for listening to the Joy Lab podcast. If you enjoyed today's show, visit joylab.coach to learn more about the full Joy Lab program. Be sure to rate and review us wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts.
Please remember that this content is for informational and educational purposes only. It is not intended to provide medical advice and is not a replacement for advice and treatment from a medical professional. Please consult your doctor or other qualified health professional before beginning any diet change, supplement, or lifestyle program. Please see our terms for more information.